All right, so your car's scanner spit out the code P0303, and now you're wondering what on earth that means. Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to decode exactly what's going on, and more importantly, how you can track down the cause. Let's get right into it.
Ah, there it is, that glowing little engine light on your dash that just has a way of ruining a perfectly good day. It's the dreaded check engine light, and it's basically your car's way of saying, hey, something over here needs your attention.
So you've already taken the first, most important step. You plugged in a scanner. That's awesome. And it gave you this code P0303. But what does that string of letters and numbers actually mean for you and your car? Don't worry, we're about to break it all down.
Okay, so at its heart, P0303 means one very specific thing. Your car's computer has noticed a misfire, and the 03 part tells us exactly where. It's happening in cylinder number 3. So what in the world is a misfire anyway? You could think of your engine as a team, with each cylinder firing in perfect rhythm to create power. A misfire is basically one of the team members, in this case cylinder 3, failing to do its job. The mix of air and fuel inside just doesn't ignite the way it's supposed to. The result? A little hiccup, a stumble in the engine's rhythm, and you'll definitely feel that loss of power.
It's kind of cool when you break it down. For any cylinder to fire perfectly, it really only needs these three things. It's like a recipe. You need the right amount of air and fuel, enough compression to squeeze it, and a good spark at the perfect time. A misfire code is just telling us that for cylinder number 3, one of these key ingredients is off. Our job is to figure out which one. So let's put on our detective hats and start the investigation. We're going to treat this just like a case and look at the most common culprits behind that P0303 code. Let's round up the usual suspects. This chart right here, it tells us exactly where to start looking. The vast majority of misfires are caused by something in the ignition system. That makes it our prime suspect. After that, we might look at the fuel system, but those more serious mechanical problems, they're way less common. So let's zoom in on that ignition system. More often than not, the problem is one of these three things. It could be something as simple as a spark plug that's just old and worn out, or maybe it's the ignition coil, the part that actually creates the big spark that's gone bad. And if your car has them, it could even be a cracked or damaged spark plug wire. Now, if the spark turns out to be okay, our investigation pivots to the fuel system. Remember that recipe we talked about? The right mix of air and fuel? Well, a clogged or just plain broken fuel injector on cylinder 3 can stop it from getting the gasoline it needs to fire. Now let's hope it's not one of these, but we gotta be aware of them. These are the less common causes. Things like a vacuum leak messing up that air-fuel ratio, or some more serious internal engine stuff. But look, always check the simple, common stuff first before you start worrying about these. All right, time for the fun part, the hands-on stuff. We know our suspects, so how do we actually find the one that's guilty? Let's walk through a super logical diagnostic plan, starting with the absolute easiest checks. The code itself gives us our biggest clue right off the bat. That last digit tells you exactly which cylinder is misfiring. So P0301 would be cylinder 1, P0302 is cylinder 2, and our code P0303 points us straight to cylinder number 3. How cool is that? No guesswork needed. Okay, so how do you know for sure if a part is bad without just buying a new one and hoping for the best? You use what I think is one of the best DIY tricks out there, the swap trick. It's so simple. You just take the ignition coil you think is bad from cylinder 3 and you swap it with a good one from a cylinder next to it, like number 2. If that misfire code moves with the coil and you now get a P0302, well, you've just found your culprit. So here's your game plan, step by step. First, just use your eyes. Look for anything obviously broken or dirty on the parts for cylinder 3. If it all looks fine, do the coil swap we just talked about. Then, and this is important, clear the codes with your scanner, start the car up, let it run a bit, and scan it again. If that code jumped to P0302, you know with 100% certainty that the coil you moved is bad. Case closed. But what if the code doesn't move? What if it's still showing P0303? Hey, that's not a failure. That's another really valuable clue. It tells you the ignition coil is probably just fine, and the problem is with something you didn't move. That means it's likely the spark plug or maybe the fuel injector for that same cylinder. You can even try swapping the plugs next. So once you've found the bad part, the fix is usually just replacing it. But it is so important to understand why you can't just ignore this warning light and hope it goes away. And this right here, this is probably the most important thing to remember. If that check engine light isn't just on, but it's flashing, that's a 5-alarm fire. It means raw, unburnt fuel is getting dumped from that misfiring cylinder right into your exhaust, and that can literally melt and destroy your catalytic converter, which is a very, very expensive part to replace. Please do not ignore a flashing light. So after you've put in the new coil or a new spark plug, whatever it was, the final step is to grab your scanner one last time and clear that code. Then take the car for a good test drive, make sure the engine's running smooth and that light stays off. That's how you confirm you've nailed the fix.
Look, that P0303 code can seem pretty intimidating at first, but really, it's just a puzzle waiting to be solved. And now, you know how to solve it. By following a logical plan, starting with the most likely suspects, you can absolutely track down the problem yourself. You've got the knowledge now. So, ready to start your investigation? Good luck!